I'm a sophomore in college. I have no ability to program. It's 2019. I'm infatuated with Bitcoin. How do I monetize it? Justin picked up my DM, so you know what? Got Mexican food with him, and we're talking, and I don't remember what we talked about. But and he's like, yeah, you need to meet this guy. I don't remember his name, and he's like, let me text him right now. And then he's like, okay, he can meet in an hour. I'm like, okay, great. He's jogging right now. And then I go and meet this guy and roll up, grab a smoothie. Parker Lewis rolls up and don't know who he is, and we're talking and asking him for life advice, and we're going back, and he's like, you need to program. You need to learn how to program in Bitcoin and everything. And just had a great conversation, started that relationship, got into Austin Bit Devs, and I think it's very fitting for what the industry is. To a 20-year-old kid has nothing to offer, and shows that the industry is really democratized and allows anyone to enter in and just show what you have to provide. And those who help those who have nothing to offer them really show their character. And so, Justin and Parker really are a fitting example of that. Yeah. 7 days later, we started Giga. So, so kind of give you the history of this. So that was 2019. 7 days later, we went in and started diving down the rabbit hole, my co-founder and I. So I did not do this by myself by any means. Started learning and diving into methane mitigation. Really took a deep dive into that and realized we couldn't scale that sustainably by ourselves. And so we started purchasing. Then we started realizing we can't just purchase it, and we need to build the main structure. Then we realized, oh, well, we can't just do that. We're getting bottlenecked by the actual subcomponents. So we started manufacturing and building the subcomponents ourselves. Fast forward, in 2022, we started manufacturing at rapid scale. And then in 2023, we ended up doing about 235 megawatts in 2023. And rapidly the business just continued to blow up on that end. And so we manufacture 3 types of products on this end. Don't worry, this isn't a shill, just kind of giving you the background on that end. So we manufacture power generation, so natural gas generators, cooling systems, heat transfer systems on that end. We manufacture low, medium, and high voltage systems, all in-house, and 3-phase pad mount transformers between a certain voltage. And then most importantly, we manufacture modular data centers, both hydro and air data centers, and rapidly expanding on that end. Kind of fundamentally where we've grown to the business is infrastructure is the bottleneck. You look at global demand, not just for Bitcoin mining, but data centers in general, it's going to be 4% of total energy usage by 2030. That's 120 gigawatts of 100% or near 100% utilization. That's like running your microwave 24/7, 365. And the amount of copper needed to do that is just astronomical. The next part of this is lead times are egregious. We're looking at it's 24 plus months to get any, institutional scale capital invested and figuring out, hey, fundamentally, how are we able to scale this? The legacy providers, they can't adapt, so the Eatons, the Schneiders, the Siemens, it's all these old curmudgeoned men that care too much about engineering and not enough about innovation, and you can't fundamentally move anything in this space. And on top of all that, it's just really expensive, and that's really where Giga got involved in this space on that end. And so how we've grown over the years, this is a picture of one of our facilities. It's a small 16 megawatt facility, but we built it in less than 3 months from acquiring the facility, doing all the land work, and getting it online in less than 3 months on that end. So we're vertically integrated. We have a team of over 8 people overseas. Going to be growing by about 20 at the end of the year, doing vertically integrated high, medium, and low voltage manufacturing, as well as our modular data centers in the space. We have less than 16-week lead time on everything except the high voltage. And we have about 4.5 years of deploying modular data centers rapidly in the space at hyperscale. And so when we're looking at, what are the institutional Bitcoin miners doing, there's 2 things to focus on. So The two things going up and to the right, on the left-hand side, that's the price of Bitcoin, and on the right-hand side is network hash rate. The chart on the right, every Bitcoin miner in the world hates except us. Because that means we're selling more and more products than we ever have before, and people need our infrastructure. But what you see on this side of things, all of these examples going down and to the right is ASICs. And it's this ever-depreciating asset that is just this spiral of death going downwards, and this ever-competing game that is now commoditized. It's just who can get there faster and who can, be the first to monetize them and make that revenue day one. And we believe the alpha to be made is that spread between the ASICs and the infrastructure or the hash rate going up. And that's where we're really focusing our firepower. And so you can see this too, just our general thesis overall, and I love to draw an analogy between oil and gas. That's where we got our roots, that's where we started. If you look at oil and gas, where they started and they got a little too greedy during the shale era, and it was growth at all costs. And they were just dumping tremendous amounts of money, no matter what, to produce more and more of these hydrocarbons. And they got burnt. And we see similar ties with Bitcoin mining, where it's growth at all costs. When can we announce the next purchase of computers or ASICs on the market? And they got burnt, and they're starting to pull back. And so, just today we saw Marathon acquire another facility and whatnot. And, Exxon, they announced a merger with Pioneer not too long ago. And so you're really starting to see free cash flow being prioritized. But the private investors in the space are fulfilling this need for the public markets. They're going in, they're de-risking the assets, developing them, and frankly selling out to those people in the space. And the preferred strategy by management today, at least what you're seeing from a lot of the majors, is this kind of trend of up and to the right. You're seeing the price per megawatt of these assets of developed facilities being sold at higher and higher prices as the plugs are becoming scarcer and scarcer. So not only is it harder to find these industrial high volume plugs, but it is harder and harder to develop them at a faster pace. And so in 2024, take us to where are we now? Giga is in the past, 8 weeks, we've already, pushed out another 190 megawatts of power infrastructure. That is not a product of the bull run. That is a product of 6 months of trailing hard efforts on our end. And so while we are a bit lagging as a signal indicator, I think that shows you just how much there is to come in this space. Just as a quick example, we're all around the world. By the end of the year, we should be on all the continents. And we're popping up all over the states in about 13 states right now. So we're exploding. We're very excited for where we're headed. It's just getting started, quite honestly, on that end. And I'd be pretty sad if I didn't give a shill to the fact that we have over 14 positions open right now. So if you know anyone, if you know any young people, any experienced people, any passionate people, functionally what I've learned over the past, 16, 18 months is that the only thing that matters in business is people. So, please reach out if you know of anyone that's interested in joining the space. So, happy to answer any questions at this time.
All right, first one, Ryan.
With all the big demand for compute from AI as well coming online, I'm curious how you think about that, like how the two kind of demand sinks compare and contrast, and then do you think the theory that they are natural allies in arguing, hey, we need more generation everywhere plays out?
It's funny, you just saw the first article come out that compared how much power AI is using relative to, energy world consumption. Someone was complaining about that. The answer is yes. I think, they're both cousins. How Giga looks at it is, we started we started a Bitcoin business. I built a switchboard for my own internal needs. Then I built 20 more. And then finally, after about 20 iterations, the quality of that was high enough from an engineering standard to be sold to an oil and gas company. And so Bitcoin was the incentive or the subsidy for us to build a business that, has nothing to do with Bitcoin on that end. And so we right now are servicing HPC needs just from an infrastructure standpoint. 25% of our revenue this year should be coming from non-Bitcoin customers. And that's something we plan to continue to grow on that end.
Questions? Gotta be more. Yeah, Billy?
Hash rate prediction.
Wait.
Give us your hash rate prediction 12 months from now.
I have no idea. What are we at, like 600 right now? Yeah, 625. I have no idea. I mean, we'll probably be, you'll see a little 5-10% drawdown post-halving, and then just consistent compounding growth. The problem is capital allocation is sticky relative to the price of Bitcoin. So all of the hash rate we've seen come online from the past 846 days we were in this bear market together, that was from raising capital. That was then, people realized it was like really hard to deploy. So, we'll continue to see hash rate climb. It'll be a byproduct of capital that was previously raised over the past 18 months. And then everyone and their mother's going to raise money in this bull run. And then, 18 months from all-time high, you're going to see, just egregious growth rate on that end.
More or less than doubling.
Less than double.
Less than double. Okay.
Just a fun, quick question. The Giga name, does that come anything from Giga Maggie's?
It does. So let's see if we can see the logo there. He struck a chord. Yeah. So if you see the left-hand logo, so the gig, as in Gig'em from Texas A&M, is highlighted. So five people on the management team are from Texas A&M. My co-founder and I both went to Texas A&M, met there. And so very, very passionate about the university. Would not be in the position we are today without the alumni selflessly giving us just, egregious amounts of resources, time, investing in us, not even fiscally, but just really, holding our hand and teaching us along the way. So very, very passionate about A&M on that end. Whoop!
I'm gonna turn it to Marty, but first, what do you call 1,000 exahashes? A zeta hash, where we might enter zeta hash territory, the first zeta hash.
Maybe. On the electrical engineering side, how is it prepping for new ASIC models on your end?
So it's funny. So we're moving into a function of like three-phase technology, and so it's essentially how can you get the most efficient power direction into a computer. WhatsMiner and Bitmain, if you would think of them as Apple and Microsoft of manufacturing these ASICs or these Bitcoin mining computers, the next generation of computers are becoming more and more efficient, and they want more and more power consumption. And that's just really hard to put into a shoebox configuration. So they had to transition to three-phase power to become more and more efficient. They both went to the same manufacturer and said, hey, we want to manufacture our own proprietary three-phase receptacle, similar to what you use to plug into a wall, but more efficient, right? 4 microwaves in the size of a shoebox. And the manufacturer was like, great, let's all agree on an industry standard receptacle, and then we'll just build that, and everyone can have the same one. And they basically both said F you to each other, and we now have 2 industry standard 3-phase receptacles. So it sucks from a manufacturing standpoint, and just creates another variable on the manufacturing side. But those two receptacles are going to carry us for a pretty long time until we have, a significant jump of order of magnitude on the semiconductor iteration.
James?
Matt, where do you think hash rate focuses over the next 10 years geographically? I mean, mostly in US at the minute, kind of majority, around the world anyway. Do you think China, do we go back to China? Are we Africa? Are we Middle East, South America?
I'm really not qualified to answer this question. I think, so 10 years is a pretty long time horizon, right? So it's like, that's essentially, you're asking me what is the price of Bitcoin going to be in 10 years, right? Implicitly. Because, hash rate follows Bitcoin price appreciation. And so it depends where Bitcoin's price will be at. If it's, where we all want it to eventually end up at in the next 10 years. I think people who said Bitcoin is banned will change their opinion just based on a national security standpoint. But if you see nominal price appreciation, I think you're going to see a pretty heavy concentration in areas that have stable rule of law and private property rights that people believe genuinely will stand up from an investability standpoint.
Sean?
So a couple questions. Quick one. How many guesses per second is a terahash?
Trillion.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, when I tell people about Bitcoin mining, they can't comprehend the number of guesses per second the network is doing. And how do you guys think about finding sites? Are people contacting you? Are you going out and finding them? Is it a mix of both? And also, are you guys energy agnostic? Are you seeking stranded renewables? And then how do you line up with the industry as far as about 60% renewables, I believe, is the current renewable percentage of energy?
Absolutely. So, so there's two functional arms to Giga. One where we, own the infrastructure. Two, where we sell the infrastructure. And that's just under our Bitcoin mining arm. Right now, we're more heavily concentrated, and our revenue is more so derived from selling the infrastructure than it is actually owning the infrastructure. At some point, we're going to be reaching critical mass where it's going to be leaning the other way. And we have the ability to kind of move in and out of these cycles while there's hash rate growth. Hash rate growth means revenue growth from Giga. And by the end of 2025, Giga will probably be regarded as the singular Bitcoin mining OEM to go to for equipment, I would say. And so that allows us to move in and out of these bull and bear markets very easily. In terms of how we're expanding both with renewable energy on grid, as well as a mix of depends on your opinion, but carbon negative energy via methane mitigation.
I'm going to move today, but I actually have a quick question. So two things. You mentioned earlier rapid deployment. Could you just talk a little bit about y'all's approach and just how you approach that from an operations perspective? And then second, I saw that you guys recently deployed a hydro container. Could you just talk about immersion versus hydro versus air, and how you're thinking about now going forward?
Absolutely. Yeah. So first question, modular data centers. Being in a containerized form allows to, one, have lower engineering processes, and then by doing that, you have, a significant lower permitting requirements, and that starts to compound on top of each other. And so you can essentially have the entire facility ready up, copper sticking out of the ground, and then drop these containers on site. And as fast as you can connect the copper to your container, you can get online, assuming you have everything downstream set and ready. And that's how we approached it. So for instance, this facility, which you can kind of see pretty in the background, everything was set up and ready. The gravel was done, the dirt work was done, the site was able to be energized, the medium voltage poles were set up, and we went in, set the containers down, plugged in internet, brought in the computers, and we were online within a matter of a week. That's kind of the ability that modular data centers allow you to have. in terms of the nuance between air and hydro. We decided in 2023 to start building towards hydro, or what would be called direct-to-chip cooling. So it's not immersion, so everyone's probably pretty familiar with immersion, where you take this big computer and you dunk it in this kind of weird dielectric fluid that's inert and doesn't conduct electricity. But hydro, water does conduct electricity, and so you're able to run it on top of the semiconductor chips in a fashion where you can use that as a cooling method. And our thesis was that infrastructure was dramatically underserviced. There were essentially 2 Chinese manufacturers and 1 European manufacturer servicing that space, no European, and we were expanding into Ecuador and decided that we needed something that could handle this harsh environment. And so this system is beautiful on that end, and allows you to essentially slap in a computer that looks like a traditional server that would be at AWS or Azure, and have it up and running in an even easier time frame. And so it's more expensive than traditional air cooling, but there are benefits in terms of lower maintenance, lower. There's some things you can do on the internal operations that allows you to optimize the economics in terms of capital expenditure as well.
Thanks. Dave?
Yeah, this is actually related to the question Parker just asked, but what is your turnaround time from getting a customer order and having a bare shipping container to being ready to put it on a truck and take it out to the field?
As we get more working capital, it's shorter and shorter. Right now, if it's made to order and you give me something fancy smanchy, we can have it done in about 8 to 10 weeks. As we continue to grow and grow our balance sheet, our goal is to have 100 megawatts of air-cooled modular data centers on 2-week notice to any customer outside, and be able to get to them just so that they don't have to suffer that opportunity cost of downtime. So something that we don't really advertise a lot is we have a 24/7 logistics desk managing all of our domestic trucking overseas, as well as managing our freight forwarding. So we can go from Shanghai to Long Beach in about 12 days, guaranteed, with a U.S. carrier. And then we manage all of our importation, tariffs declarations, and domestic trucking on the U.S. side.
Yep.
Just curious, is it all made in USA, or do you source most of your components and everything in the United States?
No, so most of our components are sourced from overseas. And so it's a funny evolution of the business. Where are we at? So we started in Beaumont, Texas, started manufacturing, did about 32 containers that my co-founder and I personally welded up ourselves. And we were importing about 70% of the critical components, and realized that we ourselves could not scale it fast enough, nor with the quality control needed that 22-year-olds had. And looked for other options on that end, and ended up saying, hey, if we're importing the components that are all critical, why don't we do final assembly overseas? And so we have an office in Shanghai with 2 foreigners, what we would call Americans, and then about 8 Chinese nationals. On that end, plan to have that team at about 20 by the end of the year.
We got time for one more.
Of the countries listed up there, what's the most favorable from a regulatory perspective? With 30% taxes on rigs being thrown around here and whatnot.
USA is the best one on that list. Shocker. But yeah, I mean, we love USA. More importantly, we love Texas. That's where we're from, and that's where we'll always be on that end. So there's lots of opportunity elsewhere, but you always have to consider it risk adjusted.
Awesome. Let's give a hand for Matt.